Hello and welcome to the episode 13 of the Developers Zen podcast, where we talk about everything in the games industry, but from the eyes of two indie devs. My name is Siavash, aka Rainy, and my co-host is Sunny, aka Fem. I don't even need to
like your name for a second
practice
there.
that. I just
no,
get
you
into
forgot
it,
your name. I noticed
I did
it.
forget my name. So this week we are going to be talking about everything that's happening in the industry, and there's a lot of stuff going around, but we decided to talk about something that isn't like a controversy or anything, but more like a we decided this week we're just going to kind of celebrate a renewal or maybe a unique game in a genre that hasn't been around for a while.
Actually, wait, before you get started, I think what we should do, there's a thing that John Oliver does where at the very beginning of his show, he's like, here's the stuff that has happened this week, but I'm not going to talk about it, but I'm going to acknowledge that it's happened. I think we should do that.
Okay,
because
that's fine.
Let's be honest, what's happening with Helldivers right now is a big deal. We should at least hey, this is happening right now. And, but the story tonight is we're going to talk about other stuff. We're aware.
I guess
we just don't want to touch
aware.
it.
We're aware of it. And, what Arrowhead is doing is very commendable and very honorable. And I just hope it resolves, because the game itself is amazing. There's so much love from the devs, and the community also loves the game. And I'm talking specifically about the game, not all the stuff around it. So I hope at the end of it, players the community that absolutely loves this game can get back into it and enjoy it. Really, that's as much as I like to say without properly getting into it, because obviously we have a lot to talk about it, but we don't want to talk about it this episode.
A little too early. I kind of want to see what happens, and then we can do a retroactive. I'm curious.
Maybe we can just do like a post-mortem on it.
I'm curious to see if Sony's going to change their mind, or are they going to listen to the gamers? Like, what's going to happen? But that's the story for another day. So the topic tonight is we want to talk about some indie successes. And
I mean, you've seen the title of the podcast, and I wanted to call it the life cycle of a genre, but we decided to call it that there are no original ideas in gaming, because at the end of the day, we're all standing on the shoulders of giants. We essentially wanted to talk about how a genre really spawns. Where does it come from? Why does something becomes a genre and we start calling it like that? Actually, we were putting a list together before we started the episode. I forgot about the most important one. Souls-likes.
Oh, right.
And roguelikes as well.
The
how did we forget about
the genres
those?
That literally get named
after the
game. Yeah.
So where did this discussion even spawn from? So recently, I've been following this game for a little while. It's been on my wish list, and as soon as it came out, I bought it, and I've been absolutely loving it. It's actually running right now as we are recording this podcast, because my attention span is so terrible and it can keep me focused. It's called Rusty's Retirement. If you haven't tried it, give it a go. It's a shout out to Rusty's Retirement, Mr. Morris Games.
I'm gonna download it.
Yeah, hell yeah, do it. And I would love to get the developer for Rusty's Retirement, Mr. Morris Games, on an episode of the podcast. I would personally love to. Actually, that'd be so cool to talk to them about where did the idea come from, where did they get inspired to just
this game is $6. Go buy it.
Yeah, it's very cheap. Essentially, what it is that either vertically or horizontally, it's a game that sits either at the bottom or side of your screen. I have it on the side because it's easier for me to manage windows. And it's a little farming game that it's more of a management game. It's an idle game, so it plays itself, but you plan and you tell it how to do things and how to go about. You can even it has a little window that you can tell it what should be the behavior of the NPCs going around. What should they prioritize over other things? Really cool. And we were talking about how essentially desktop games like this aren't anything new. There has been games like this that kind of sit on your desktop, a little idle thing that does its thing, but have never been this comprehensive. There's never been like a bar that is like a full game.
Yeah.
And
we know of. We could be totally wrong.
We could be totally wrong. Yeah. This is all based on our information right now. And then we pretty much wanted to extend this discussion into where genres come from. So we can talk about Restless Retirement for a little bit longer. Why it's so successful, why is it genius, why is it so good that it came out at this time, or we could jump into the just the genre topic.
I mean, I think in general it is really interesting to. That's not what I wanted. I'm like trying to download this game while we're talking. It's interesting that you can have a good idea. They're very rare. And it's amazing to me how quickly other people will see that and be like, that's so cool. I want to make my version of that. And how that's the kind of thing that I think we need to talk about more often and celebrate rather than comparing games to each other. If that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
you know, it happens a lot that if you are because we were talking about this earlier, in art, you're always gonna, if you're inspired by other art, that art is obviously going to like influence what you're making, right? Yeah. And that's just art. That's just how it is. You know, if you even look in like the art world, there are artists who spawned whole genres and movements within the art world. If you look at like how different artists painting techniques and
there's a YouTube channel that I follow that I absolutely love, and I watched his videos as soon as they come out. I'm a Patreon backer even. It's called Technology Connections. It's a Midwesterner dude that makes videos about. I know, he's so great. It's about it covers some really boring sounding topics, and he makes them very interesting. But he, like, for example, talks about why does a light switch make that distinct light switch sound? Like, why is the reason behind that? It's just very mundane stuff, but it sounds really cool and I love it. Or like the touch lamps that you can buy, you know, the ones that you just touch it anywhere and it just, the light comes on and then goes out. Like, where do they come from? How do they work? But why is it called Technology Connections is interesting. He called it Technology Connections because he talks a lot about inventions. And most of these inventions happened because somebody made a connection between two very different areas and subjects. I don't know, biology and electronics, physics and chemistry. It's these connections between these different technologies that brought these new inventions in. And where I'm going with this is that essentially a lot of these art, at the end of the day, is somebody making connections between different things that inspired them and putting their touch on it. And that is really how humans do creative stuff. Yeah. It's whatever inspired us.
We all iterate on each other.
We all very much iterate on each other.
And that's okay.
What's that phrase I always say? We stand on the shoulders of giants.
Yeah. And so, like, you know, if a great example, Stardew Valley, right? Mm-hmm. So Stardew Valley was not an original idea. Everybody knows that Eric he wanted to use another game to teach himself how to make games. And that's actually a very smart way to do it, because you have something to aim off of. It's like, you know, trying to copy another painting when you're learning how to paint, so that you can figure out how things work and how to get certain.
It's also the most rewarding and fulfilling. It's like, rather than sitting in classes, you're actually trying to make something.
Yeah, so it's great. But so to then, you know, he kind of rejuvenated a genre that had sort of died. And so now any game that has farming mechanics or that is pixelated and has farming mechanics now just automatically gets called Stardew Valley. And that's not really fair, I don't think, to the people who are making new games. And it's not entirely fair to Eric, to Concerned Ape. I always call him Eric. I'm sorry if that's weird for people. I feel weird calling somebody Concerned Ape. But, you know,
it should be concerned after what you're about to say.
Like, it's also not fair to him to say that he copied another game, because he put his own spin on things. So there's kind of like, just let art be art and don't, you know. And I feel like in a lot of cases, the media is to blame, and I think SEO is to blame, because the best way to get your article seen is to put Stardew Valley in there. So if you compare every single
just another game, name, so that
a famous
that
game
name carries the
article,
yeah.
So if you put in Stardew Valley like game, well, anybody who you know,
and I mean, I'm going to use an example of our own. and this isn't me complaining, it's absolutely incredibly flattering to hear this in an article title for us, but there has been a few times where it's been like Persona-like farming sim, SunnySide. That is amazing compliment, by the way, thank you for that. But it does happen.
I missed that. What? Sorry,
I'm just saying that we had a few articles written about us that says Persona-like farming game.
Yeah. It's a huge compliment.
And I mean, it's a huge compliment, but it does happen. Is that the way to carry the weight of an article or get somebody to click on it is to drop name another game on it.
I get it for that purpose, but when regular people are just doing it and coming into your YouTube comments be like, oh, this is just a Stardew Valley game, it's kind of unfair.
It is unfair, yeah, true.
But so I kind of want to talk about like what are some other games that have like spawned genres. You know, Rusty's Retirement is the newest, because you know, we've already seen what I think 2 different developers on Twitter who were like, this is great, I'm gonna make one too. There was a really cute one I saw where, because like Rusty's Retirement, he's got like a cute, like, what is this, a monkey? I don't know what this character is.
I'm not sure what it is. He's got a very unique style, which actually I really dig. It's like
cute.
little robots.
Yeah, but
which, you know, I dig that.
There was one that I saw, it's emojis.
Oh yeah, I saw
really
that too.
cute.
It's like an RPG thing, or like a city builder, I think, actually.
Yeah.
Very clever idea.
So, and like, we're gonna see a bunch of these coming out in the next.
But
which
to
is
put
fine.
it in simple terms, then, how a genre even starts, or a subgenre, is that one game comes with a unique idea, makes a few connections between different stuff that inspired them, create a game. The game gets a lot of attention, and this is important. The game does have to get attention.
Yeah, it has to
and
do
then
well.
other devs notice it.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, I want to make my own version of this. And then the more of it comes out, the more people are like, okay, we need to actually start categorizing this. We can't just call it that one game that did this. And there you go. A genre is born. In another situation, and the reason I like to call it a life cycle of genre is that Harvest Moon pretty much invented it. Actually, funny enough, by the way, Harvest Moon originally wasn't even supposed to be a farming game. It was a JRPG with a farming theme.
Really?
So at its heart, at core, it was just a JRPG that, you know, had story and kind of visual novel mechanics and stuff with a farming theme. And then obviously we know Story of Seasons came out, and then a few other games spawned here and there, like Rune Factory, but it was still kind of niche, I would say, before Stardew came out. And then once the Stardew came out, it was kind of a revival, and Stardew made it accessible, especially in the West, because Harvest Moon is a lot more popular in Japan than it was in the West at the time. Yeah, it's a different name as well, but Stardew made it very accessible, and actually Stardew also came out around the time that PC gaming and Steam and stuff was getting really kind of commonplace for people to use. He wasn't really the hardcore gamer that would use it. So it came out at the perfect time and introduced so many people to the genre, and then the genre was revived. And then now we are getting a bit of an oversaturation in the farming sim genre, which is going to probably, I don't know how it's going to end, because is it going to end up with people not making any more farming games for a little while? Is it just going to continue to skyrocket? Because if you think about it, zombie game was a thing for a little while back in the 2010s. Everything was a zombie game, and then it just kind of stopped.
I mean, I feel like there's always like a life cycle for this kind of stuff. Is you have one person does it, it's really successful, and then you have a bunch of people doing it. And then now there's oversaturation, so everybody leaves to go make it something else because they're having too hard a time in this area. I mean, let's be honest, that's what we're going to end up doing. As soon as we're done with SunnySide, we're not going to touch farming games for a while, if ever again, because it's way too competitive right now.
At least not an actual farming game by definition.
Yeah.
We might make a game that has farming mechanics, but
cozy games, whatever. But so so what are some other like genre inducing games?
Defining.
So like, okay, my favorite one, the one that I really wanted to talk about, is like, I don't think there's an actual genre for it, but it's like the aggro animal games that started with the Goose Game, the unnamed Goose Game, where you're an animal and you're just like terrorizing humans.
Untitled Goose Game.
And now what did I call it? unnamed
game.
Oh, and now there's like squirrel with a gun, and like I've seen a whole bunch of them coming out where you're like an animal and you're terrorizing.
I'm not sure what it was called. I think they were Pomeranians or pugs or something, and you're just supposed to go around and wreak havoc in the house and just make everything dirty.
There was a cat one that came out where like all you do is go around knocking stuff on people's heads in a house, but then it's even expanded where if you look at like Little Kitty Big City, that's pretty much all it is you're a cat in a giant city and you're just living your best cat life, you know. So it's like become this like this genre of like you playing as an animal, I guess.
As an animal,
and like doing stuff, which is funny because remember you and I had an idea for that at one point. And then Squirrel with a Gun came out and we were like, well, damn it.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it's funny you mentioned that because at some point there's another genre that has a lot of is getting a lot of influx, and it constantly is in, you know, like a sinus wave. It keeps going up and down. There's more games in it, there's suddenly no games in it, there's so many games that comes out in the genre again, and it's simulator genre.
Yeah.
And I feel like these days the line is getting really blurry as to what is a simulation game, because I didn't know, but we are a simulation game.
Yeah, technically.
Apparently.
Yeah.
So
which
it's getting really hard
because to me simulation games are the ones that have like the weirdly realistic like art style kind of, and I feel like they almost always have that art style, and it's like it's not visually appealing in my opinion.
Yeah, but that has changed a lot. So since the days of Goat Simulator, which really kind of brought it into the random simulator that
I mean, the first one really
developers realized
was Flight Simulator.
Well, developers realized you can simulate anything.
Yeah.
But
it was Flight Simulator and then Farm Simulator and then Goat Simulator, and everybody's like, oh, this is a thing that we can do now.
We can,
and now there's everything simulator. There's like there's all the ones that are like running a business.
Yeah.
And then there are the ones that are like doing a task. Like it's two different parts now. Much. So there's like owning a restaurant, owning a bakery, and owning a. There's one where you're like a video game developer, and then there's like a prison one that's coming out, and there's like all these like running business ones, and then there's like power washing and lawn mowing and fixing cars.
There's a rock simulator. I don't know if you've seen that one, and a grass simulator. That's it. You just open it and you just
watch the grass grow.
That's it. There was another game that you would watch the paint dry. I'm not even joking.
That's amazing.
It's on Steam.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, but you can tell it's a genre, especially when we start getting meme games. That's for sure a telltale of the genre happening.
And then there's also like the city builders. So the earliest one I know of is SimCity.
Yeah, I believe SimCity was the one that invented it.
I'm kind of sad that Sims like got away from the city stuff because those were good games.
Yeah, and just for a second, if you want to be that guy, I know SimCity wasn't the first one. It was a Japanese game. A-Train. I'm well aware because I'm a SimCity aficionado. I can't speak that. I can't pronounce that word. Aficionado. Yeah. So A-Train was technically the first game, which was a transport simulator, and then it got much more, open into becoming a city sim, and then that's where SimCity came from. But yeah, it pretty much spawned the city building genre because we had Cities XL, which wasn't even City Skyline. City Skyline is a different game that came out a lot later, but there was like Cities XL or something like that. I might be getting the name wrong. And then there were a few other games that came out that tried to do what SimCity tried to do, but then SimCity pretty much killed itself, unfortunately, by doing the 2015 2012 release that they did. We're not going to talk about that.
No.
But that's where City Skyline came from, because that's actually funny enough. That's a very similar thing to what happened with Harvest Moon. It started to stagnate. There wasn't much of a competition, so they just kept doing the same thing.
And
so an indie dev came in and decided to do it much better and do it everything that people wanted. I mean, Stardew did that.
Stardew did that too.
So did City Skyline.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, is like we're talking about these. A lot of people would call, city management games a genre by itself, but it's actually a subgenre of just management games.
Yeah,
that's a whole genre. So if you look at like the 4X games,
which is a very huge.
It's huge, because you look at the 4X games like Civilization. And there are a whole bunch of, and I'm going to keep using the word copycats. I don't mean that in a bad way. So I just want to be clear. It's just the only word we really have to sum it up. But there are a lot of copycat 4X games now that are coming out soon, actually. There's
also,
like
if you don't
3
know,
or 4 of
4X,
them. It's such
4X
a dumb
stands...
term.
Well, 4X, it's like Civilization is a 4X game, or Age of Wonders, or Warhammer. These are all 4X games. Warhammer,
and what are the 4Xs again?
It's exploration, explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. Yes.
What?
Yeah, explore, expand, exploit, exterminate is a subgenre of the strategy-based games, which is 4X. So that's Civilization for you, for example, is the biggest one probably.
Explore, expand, exploit, and exterminate. Okay. But then
Stellaris
you also
is
have
really huge one.
yeah, Stellaris is actually a really good game.
Stellaris.
The other one that came to mind when we were talking about it was like the Phasmophobia type games.
Oh yeah, that's an interesting one, because I don't honestly, if you know, please let us know in the comments. But I think Phasmophobia kind of invented a subgenre. I don't want to call it a genre because in technicality it's just a 4-player co-op
horror game,
PvE investigation game, right? But it's so unique, I can't find any examples of it. But there's so many Phasmo likes that has coming off of that, and then suddenly you get a game like Lethal Company, which turns the idea on its head. Now suddenly it's a lot more whimsical.
It's basically the same game, right? It's just the art style is very different.
No, it's kind of different.
Okay, because I don't play these games, so...
So in Phasmophobia, you're ghost hunting. You're trying to figure out what type of ghost it is. And then you get out of the place, you get it right, you get some money. It's a very simple idea. It's executed really well.
Yeah.
Shout out to, I think they're called Kinetic Games. And then Lethal Company, solo dev. The idea is that you go to different planets, and then you need to go into these very dangerous bunkers and loot as much as you can. And then you have a quota to meet with the company. And then if you don't make your quota, you die. So
4-person co-op. And still encountering scary things.
PvE.
But one is investigative and one is more of a collection game.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And the thing that makes Lethal Company really kind of popular, honestly, is the fact that it's so charming. There are tons and tons of clips of people. Oh, just so many.
My favorite one will always be the guy that gets killed by the ladder. It's so hilarious. And the thunk noise. It's good.
Incredible. It's incredible. I love when games do that, because actually the first experience that I had to something like that happening, funny enough for me, was your favorite game, or one of your favorite games. It was Valheim. And I was like, oh yeah, look at that tree. And it just dunked
the trees falling on you. Yeah.
I love it when games just make unique systems. Sorry, unique,
that can be exploited
universal
in some ways.
Systems. So it's like, essentially, the programmer goes in and he's like, okay, this tree, if it hits something, it's gonna damage it.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. If it hits it, it's gonna damage it.
Well, let's reference.
If you're a programmer, think that way. Yeah. Try to make your systems as universal as you can, because it is going to create opportunities where you don't expect what's going to happen, and it's going to surprise you, and you're going to have a good time.
Let's reference. We have to pay homage to the master of that type of game development, programming, planning, whatever, which is Legend of Zelda.
Zelda. Oh, right. Fair enough. Oh, you mean especially like Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, true.
That, like, everything in the environment can do a thing and impact other things. Yeah, I think they.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. I never forget. The moment that I fell in love with Breath of the Wild. Obviously, Zelda game, so I love it. Kind of, I'm already biased, but I was trying to get to this little island that was just far away. And then I was just keep thinking to myself, there must be a way to get there. There might be a door at the bottom of it. I might need to get to it. And then I just looked at the trees around me. It was like, wait, hold on a second. And I just chopped down the tree, moved it close enough, and then I walked over. I was like, okay, they designed this differently. Yeah. This doesn't feel like the previous Zelda games, and I like it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. Master at that.
Masterclass.
It just, and it rewards you for being creative.
Creative and weird.
It rewards you for being creative without giving you a little noise that you made it, you did it, or an NPC telling you that you did it, you just feel rewarded because the world is rewarding you.
Yeah.
It's honestly genius. I hope to be able to design a game like that one day. Or not a game like that, come up with systems that are as awesome as the ones that
I was like, I'm not gonna hold my breath on that. That's a bit much to be asking for. But yeah. I'm trying to think, what are some other ones that kind of spawned
Well, I mean,
genres?
I said Souls-like, right?
Yeah.
We could just talk about that. So,
well,
Souls-like,
I don't know anything about them, which is why I haven't touched them. So if you want to talk about it, I'm going to sit here and play with Rusty.
Right. So if you don't know, there are two different terms for it. It's Souls-like, or some people like to say Soulborne games as well, because it's Dark Souls and Bloodborne. But, I mean, it's as simple as it gets. Dark Souls spawned a genre of the type of game that it is. It's kind of hard to explain what kind of game it is. If you just look it up, it's just like, oh, game is hard. No, it's just how this NPCs are spawned, the fact that it's not very dialogue heavy. It's very lore heavy, but you have to go looking for it to get it. And they also do this awesome thing where the lore defines every single thing that is in the world. If you see a box somewhere in the map, there is a lore reason that box is there. And that's why the worlds are like very comprehensive and just kind of robust. But those games essentially spawned the whole genre, because there are so many other games that came out that try to capture the same feeling of it. Some people start calling any game that is difficult a Souls-like. Yeah. That's not entirely accurate, and it's kind of unfair, like you said, on Dark Souls, because people just immediately say, "Oh, it's just game hard. That's why it's popular." But that's really not it. It's just the design is very distinct. It's a very weird way of designing a game. If you come from somebody who has played a dialogue-heavy, narrative-driven game, you might think Dark Souls or Bloodborne or Elden Ring feels unfinished, because there is zero hand-holding. There is nobody telling you what to do. It's you who decides to go where and what to do.
I've never really played any of the Souls-like games. If we're looking at like the first ones, not Elden Ring, but the earlier ones.
I'm also not by the way, I'm not a massive player of them, but I'm very...
You know them. You've played them once.
Yeah, and I have a ton of respect for them too.
So, okay, so just so I understand. So, let's say Bloodborne or whatever. If I remember right, the whole like idea is that if you die, you have to go back to the beginning.
Not the beginning. Your last checkpoints that you activated yourself.
How is that different from Mario games?
The enemies come back.
How is it different from a Mario game?
Enemies are much harder and more difficult to kill. Again, there's so many design nuances that make it different.
What I'm just saying is, like, I feel like the whole point of those games is the whole permadeath thing. Is that like if you die from between checkpoints, you lose everything, and that's literally why I don't play platformer games, because I don't like that. Yeah. And then so now I've been seeing games being marketed as Souls-like platformers, and I'm like, that's a Mario game. That's not. You're not doing anything.
Yeah, we just kind of go all the way back around to where we started from. Yeah.
That's I've always thought that was funny.
Yeah.
But no, the other one I wanted to point out was the Getting Over It games. So Getting Over It was, I think, an original. That was not something anybody had really done before.
Not to my knowledge, no.
Because that is a true back to the beginning. Like, you can and will lose all of your progress. And there have been other ones now where there's like a rock climbing one. There was like a platformer one that I actually think that got pulled off of Steam because it was like an asset flip or something. And they have like similar titles too, which I think is funny. So that's kind of another one.
If we're going to, if there's another genre we need to talk about, we're pretty much at the end of our episode. But if there's another genre that we want to talk about is roguelikes, and I mean, you might have heard that term just thrown around a lot in the indie scene. Yeah. What is a roguelike? It's as simple as dungeon crawling through procedurally generated dungeons. That's as simple as it gets, and it's essentially it came up as a thing because there was a game called Rogue.
Yeah.
And it's in the 80s or something that it came out, and it was exactly the idea. And Isaac's Isaac's Binding or something, I think it's called.
Binding of Isaac.
It's a huge game. Binding of Isaac. My bad. Massive game. And that was the one that really perpetuated the roguelike genre into the indie scene especially. And now we have so many roguelikes. And it even invented a sub-genre called roguelites.
Yeah.
Which is, the roguelikes are permadeath. Roguelites are not permadeath. You just carry over your things from your previous runs.
And then you also have the classic, the Metroidvanias. That's the combination of the Metroid and Castlevania genres together. So yeah, there's a whole lot. It's super interesting when the genre gets named after the game.
Not brainstorm, but we're going to just talk about a few more of these in our extended version of the podcast, which if you want to listen to, you can do so by supporting us on Patreon down below. There's a link over there. If you support us for $10 or more every month, you get access to all the extended versions of the podcast. There is currently more than 5 episodes that you can check in extended versions. Actually, no. Every episode has an extended version, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you can listen to all the extended versions of the episodes up to this point. Extended versions are a little bit more laid back. We just kind of get a bit more
hang out and chat.
Into our personal experiences too. It's just more of a close chat, and you support us and our mission to make indie games that we love so much. So if you would like to do that, it's down below. We also have a Discord that you can join for SunnySide, which is our current upcoming game, and it'll be for all of our future projects as well. So support us on socials and stuff. We appreciate you. Thank you for spending the time and listening to us today.
And shout out.
And we will see you next week.
To Rusty's retirement.
Shout out to Rusty's retirement. Check it out.
Good job, bro.
It's a very good game. We'll see you next week on another episode of How to Indie.
Bye, guys.
Have a good day, rest of your day. Bye.